All right, we should be recording. How you doing? I'm Dr. Chris Lamond, and educated in psychology and not a clinical license. For the most part, used my education in business. I did training seminars, managed different companies, and sales and marketing. So that's what I've done. I'm retired now, and I've also worked in all kinds of phenomenology as well as psychology. So I'm kind of on the gamut on both sides. I had a center for a while in Southern California for about 14 years, playing with all these concepts, doing seminars, retreats, so on and so forth. So I'm interested in how people function and how we can effectively improve our relationship with other people and experience called life. And that's what I'm interested in. And my partner over here, Barbara, I'm going to let her introduce herself. Barbara, go ahead.
Hi, I am Barbara Cox, psychologist. Really on this call with Chris because we've been chatting about how to manage this little adventure we're on and navigate it well and feel better about how we're dealing with the daily life. So I'm just here to kind of be a light, a beacon of hope to friends and family and others out there who want a little support. And I see this as a time of building community. And Chris, I consider a mentor. I've taken a lot of training with him on intuition and how to use our intuition to help our daily life. So
Right.
There you go.
All right. So our theme is like, okay, we're in a new adventure. Here we are. And it's like, how do we navigate this experience? Because obviously, you know, whatever your reason you have got, here we are. And this is where we're at. This is what we're going to do. So how do we navigate this experience? How we get the most out of it? And that's kind of what we want to have a conversation about. Our goal is to set up a little kind of a town meeting in here for people who are interested to have positive chats about what we can do and how we can play with this and what we can do in the adventure. We're avoiding any negative comments. We're avoiding anything about conspiracy theories. There are already enough of that on YouTube videos out there. We're going to have our first meeting in about 2 weeks. And so we're sending this invitation out to everybody that Barbara and I know, which is a big genre of people. And I'm inviting everybody to share that. If you email Barbara or I, we will have, and we'll give you the email address at the end. We'll go ahead and put you into the link. The next group meeting will just send to people who have contacted us and say, yeah, I want to be included. You can drop out at any time. What the meeting will look like is that Barbara and I will do a little introduction, and then we're going to throw it open mic, and people can come back and say, like, how are they doing? What's going on? How can they be assistance to someone around them, right? What they can do in this time, and how can we balance that out? So I've got some interesting ideas. Barbara's got some interesting ideas, and we want to pick your brain and see what you're doing, right? So this is kind of, we want to keep this on a very positive theme and be able to play with what we've got going here. And I don't have any children at home. Barbara has a daughter, so we'll come back and see how it's working for her, because she's got to think in context of like, wow, we've got kids that were normally at school at home eventually here pretty quick, right? Barbara, what do you think?
Yeah, so I was thinking in terms of just vibing off what you were saying, Chris, that we really have a chance here to come together as a community. One of the things I've been seeing is as we're sitting here isolated in our houses, our habits, our patterns have come to kind of a standstill. So I call that like a pattern interrupt, where our normal everyday way of being is being shaken up and really broken. The patterns, the habits have been broken. So I've been mulling over how to take that, instead of as a negative thing, what can we do to look forward and say, once all this is settled, the dust is settled, how do we want to take this pattern interrupt and build on it for our good? Like, what new habits do we want to create? What new habits do we want to create during this time with our kids at home? Some of you have kids, some may not. What things do you want to do to help yourself feel better, to maybe develop a new structure for yourself. Chris and I were talking about two of the things you can really do to help yourself instead of sitting and eating cookies like sometimes I've been doing, is go outside, get some fresh air, walk around your block. Also get more sleep when you're having a pattern interrupt and a kind of a disconnect and repatterning. Your body really needs more rest. So there's two things you can do to help yourself kind of get back on track and get onto a new pattern that's more helpful. Chris?
Right. Yeah. Most certainly. I personally have got a few webinars out there on my my wellness code, which is wellnesscode.org is a website. I've also got a website which is Wizards Catch. It's WIZARDSCACHE.com. And that's just a blog site I have, and I've got a few links on there for webinars. And we may be producing more webinars this year. People are going to be home more. And, you know, we're not looking so much at a lockdown lasting for as long as the views out there are looking, but we're really looking at an opportunity to, for me, it's like a lot of projects around the house I've been able to finish and complete. I think I see all people going to the grocery store to buy, I don't know what, but I'm going to Home Depot every day to buy supplies. I was actually for 2 days underneath the house shoring up some of the sills around the base, and it was raining outside, so I had to work indoors. So I was under the house crawling around. So all these projects I'm kind of doing and looking at. My wife is redecorating, moving things around. So I've got a couple of painting projects I'm looking at doing as soon as it gets a little warmer. Right now, the outside temperature is around 42. So paint takes a long time to dry when it gets that cold. But when it gets up to maybe 55 to 60, I'll be painting a couple of rooms. It's been about 4 or 5 years. So those are projects I'm starting to look at. I'm advocating that we start to look at goals. What can I do here? That's like, come on, I'm get to be home. What can I do? I agree with Barbara 100%. I think that everybody adds 1 hour's sleep to the life. That makes a huge difference. Statistics come out saying that it really relaxes your body, that 1 hour difference. So add an hour, either go to bed earlier or add another hour.
Or wake up later.
Wake up later.
First night out.
Yeah, whatever your rhythm is, right? Start playing with that a little bit and start to sink in that, right? And there's some great websites where you can take a look at sleep rhythms, and there's some that can test you on there. And I don't know what the sites are off the top of my head, but just Google it and search for it. We've still got internet working, so we can play a little bit. We can do research a little bit. We can play on it. Stay away from all this craziness that's kind of going on with all these theories, because no matter what you think, we're in for it, right? We're here. This is it. So this is what we're going to do. So we really want to be able to have a platform here where we can hear from you guys and how's it working for you. I've got people that just form new relationships, and they're building a new relationship, living with someone, because it's like they went out on 2 or 3 dates. They decided to like each other, and it's like, okay, we either stuck together or we're stuck separate. So what do we got to do? So let's get stuck together, because we can always abandon each other, right? So for them, that was a great opportunity to jump into a relationship. I mean, it's like, wow. Right?
And Chris, you had a good point. We were chatting before we started taping about how to view this adventure we're in a more helpful way. And you were saying getting on Zoom more with relatives and friends. Yes. And even if you get into an argument, it's like you have somebody to connect with, and how are you going to navigate the connections? And it's a time to really think about who's in your community, what you want your community to look like. And at this time with Zoom and all this new technology, how can you make the best of that? And maybe even I'd love to hear people's ideas for how they're using this newfound time and what's helping them the most, and that sort of thing.
Right. And what you find works for you to kind of keep, now, like, I don't own a television in my house, but I have 2,000 books in the living room. So that gives me, I think, since this whole thing started, I've read now 3 books. And I normally read 3 books at a time. In other words, I stage them. I've got a book in every room. So I'm jumping from, I'm reading a book on Mesmer, and I'm reading another book on psychology. And then I got another book by Brian Greene that I'm reading, which has to do with particle physics. So that's kind of my reading genre right now. So it's like, what are you doing to create a new environment as we move forward? Because at some point in time, this is going to be over and we're going to go back out into the world and it's going to be different. It's most certainly going to be some changes. We don't have all this experience without all of a sudden recognizing things are going to change a little bit. And so we really got to start to look at that and say, wow, we got to forward look at that. And we say, wow, what are we setting ourselves up? What are we training for? What are we developing for? Can we, nothing else, find value in our friends? You know, for a long time there, we were kind of, you know, let's say we don't talk about politics and we don't talk about religion. I just last year went for 2 months to Morocco and Turkey. And it was really interesting. You see it on all the tour buses. It says, do not talk about American politics. They put the signs in the hotels because they don't want the discussions going on because it gets so heated. It was really kind of interesting. And I'm not saying that they don't have their political issues. They most certainly did. They were talking about theirs all the time. They didn't want to hear about ours. So it's really kind of fun to be able to say, wow, what are we doing? Where are we going forward as a group of people? Can we interact a little bit? I mean, I went to all my neighbors and I left them a note. I gave them my email address and my phone number in case they need anything. I'm your neighbor. If you need anything, contact me. If I can help you in any way, contact me. If you got a
And I
problem,
have to say, Chris, you're in Washington, right?
I'm in Washington State.
I wish they'd do that in California. I haven't gotten any emails from my neighbors, but I'd love for us to do that more. Southern California is a different beast, I think.
Well, maybe so, but I lived in California for a while and I wouldn't have any problem doing that here either. But yeah, most certainly, I know, and I agree. But anyhow, I most certainly put that all out available to me. Nobody has really, well, I shouldn't say that. I've had a couple of people contact me. They were afraid to go out. And they said, if you go out, could you get me a potatoes or can you do this? And I said, sure. And I said, I'm just going to drop it by your house on your front porch, ring your doorbell and leave. And then when this is all over, you can pay me for it later. So it's not a problem, right? And so I've done that now, I think 5 or 6 times for different people. So I have contact with maybe 20 neighbors that I've established. Some of them I left notes, I've never met them. I just left them a note and they've sent me a notice back, an email saying, thank you very much for contacting us. This was really great. You know, we're not leaving the house. I said, well, that's great. No problem. You know, I'm just letting you know, if you've got an issue, then, you know, it's like, wow. I was doing work on the house and I got a friend of mine that said, I'm bored to death here. It's like, God, I'll come over and help you. So him and I were under the house. We tried to keep social distance under the house.
6 feet apart.
Yeah, I told him as long as we don't lick each other's forehead, we're okay.
Chris, I'm curious about, you said we're moving forward to a new way of being. Do you want to say a few words about that to kind of get people thinking about what that would look like?
You know, I don't want to get too much into evolutionary mandate. I do have a webinar out there. It's like Surviving the Cultural Change. That was 2 years ago. When I was looking at this unfolding, I told everybody, this is not going to be pleasant, but I guarantee you it's coming. And I was projecting it start in around January this year. So I'm not too far off the mark, right? China got a head start on me. But nonetheless, I was looking at that and that whole idea, there's no solutions in that webinar I did. It was just an awareness. Surviving the Cultural Change, it says, start to take a look at what's happening. So I think we're, as humans, doing what we humans do, we evolve. Everything evolves. And so that's what we're doing, we're evolving.
Yeah.
So don't fight this. Relax, go with this. Find some value in your time with family, some value from your time in house, some value as a community. There's people that live in a neighborhood that I lived here for 6 years and never met. And when I moved in, I had parties, 2 or 3 a year on my front porch. I got a gazebo out front and I invited all the people over. I put out food and beer and everything and had them all over to meet the neighbors, right? And the last party I had like 3 people show up. So it's like, oh, okay, that was enough. Nobody else wants to come. But now I've had people turn over, new people come in. So I'm going by and leaving them packages on the porch. Somebody sends me a box of cookies. I don't eat cookies. So I go over to the neighbor who's got 3 or 4 kids, and I take the pack of cookies, and I said, here, these are homemade cookies somebody gave me. I don't eat cookies. I'm too old. You can have them, you know. I don't think they're contaminated, but spray them with Lysol if you're worried about it. It's like, whatever. So it's just, you see, having fun with this, I think, is what we need to do rather than fear with this.
Yes.
We really need to be able to get our head around, because that's what we're good at. We humans are really good at making lemonade out of lemons. We can really do that, right? And so let's do that. Let's play with this a little bit. Let's have an adventure in it. Let's have fun with it. Let's see where we can go with it. I've been on this planet longer than dirt, for heaven's sakes, at this point, you know, and it's like, I've looked at all this change, and I watch people struggle with it, and it's just like, it changes. So just go with it. Just go with the change. Embrace it. See where it's going to materialize. Don't try to figure it all out. A couple of years from now, we can read about it in a history book. We're making a mark in history right now. So let's enjoy the adventure, right? I'm not saying anybody enjoyed World War II or the bubonic plague, but the people that survived it have stories about it. We process life with stories. We enrich life as humans with stories. Good, bad, or indifferent. That's what we do. That's how we process. That's how we find value.
And Chris, I don't want to give away your age, but he went through World War II, right? So.
Oh yeah, I went through. I was somewhere in the midst of that. But
so he has the benefit of the stories and the history and how to get through this type of stuff.
Yeah, it's just a fun adventure, right? And so it's not going to be easy, but then, come on, has growth ever been easy for anybody out there? Come on, you guys. It's never very easy. So just think about, I mean, I can remember crying with my first haircut. That was, and now I don't have any hair, so that now I can cry again. So you start to see, it's like, it's a silly thing, right? But the first haircut scared me. I remember I was a little kid, and the barbershop was in a basement. And so I walked up the street and had to go downstairs to the barbershop, and I was trembling. And he had to put that booster seat and set me up there. And he said, "You'll be okay, kid." And when he got that thing out that was running, I was just terrified. Tears were running down my eyes. I had no idea, right? And then I had to give him, I think it was 25 cents for a haircut then. So I'm thinking, God, comic books for 5 cents. That's like 5 comic books. This is expensive.
Could your parents pay for that?
I'm sure. I didn't quite have a job yet. Candy bars were 2 cents at that point. So I didn't give up candy till I was 9. So somewhere back in those, somewhere around my first haircut, I was still eating candy. So anytime I could get 2 cents, I'd go buy a Reese's candy bar or a Mars Milky Way, something along those lines. 2 cents. I can remember they went to 3 before I got out of the state I was born in, Pennsylvania. They had gone up in some areas to 3 cents for candy. So when I moved to California, the candy was 3 cents across the board. So now that's how old I am. That's pretty old, right? So, but you know, we had to learn to live with that. And like I said, at 9, I decided candy wasn't good for me, so I pretty much gave it up. I cheated occasionally.
But you were ahead of the curve.
Well, I just like, you know, I didn't like that sugar drop. And I'd eat a candy and then I'd feel that sugar drop. So I'm always, my focus has always probably been on the phenomenology, the experience I'm having.
Yeah.
And I think that's a keynote. And I'm advocating to you, feel this experience, be with it. What's going on? Get over being angry and marshaled around and all that kind of silliness. It's like, come on, what's going on here? How can I get something out of this? What's in this for me? What am we doing here as a group of people on this planet? What the hell's going on? Let's get with this and let's have a good time with it, because that's our choice. That's the decision we can make. So what's it feel like? Don't be frightened. I'm advocating being cautious and being wise, but don't be frightened.
Right.
Don't be silly.
I like that. Cautious and wise.
Right. That's what we got to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You got anything else to add? Want to close
I
this?
think that wraps it up. So just really getting together, seeing how we can navigate this experience and get the best out of it, and being cautious yet wise. That says it in a nutshell.
All right. So you want to give both our email addresses, or you want to just give mine, or what do you want to do? Because I can include you in everything.
Sure. Yeah. We'll put it, we can post this on YouTube, right? That's what we're doing.
Yes, I will post this on YouTube. Probably tomorrow it'll come up, and I'll send a link to you, and then we'll send the links out.
And we'll send links out to whoever's interested. Okay.
And we'll send to whoever we got, and we'll just tell them when we send it out that if you want the next, you've got to email back if you want the next one, because we're not going to bug you. There's already too much mail coming to everybody. I don't need another caution. All right. So this is Chris, CHRISS, 2 S's, because my first wife said I was an ass, so I thought I better add an S. Okay. And after being married several times, it hasn't changed, so the S is still there. Okay. And so it's Chris, CHRISS, at wizardscatch.com. And let me spell Wizards Catch out. It's WIZARDSCACHE. So that was put together because a wizard in computer language is a template, and a cache in computer is a storage place. So storing ideas or templates. So I put it together originally as a blog site. Storing ideas and templates was what I did it for. So that's why it's called Wizards Catch. Also, I know it's a pain typing real long words, but it's also an advantage having real long titles because nobody's battling over copying it, right? So those little short ones are kind of tricky. So it's wizardscatch.com. Go ahead and email me if you want to be on this. Or if you know Barbara, go ahead and email her, and we'll compile the list. Our chats, I will not record that we're going to have in the future because I don't want to put any of your conversations out onto the web, right?
On the spot, right.
So it's going to be not recorded as we have talks. It's just going to be a community talk where everybody online talking. That's all it's going to be, no recording. Right. And that makes it feels far more comfortable for everybody, I think. We may actually do some more talks as we get data from you without using your name. We might be able to do a 10 or 15 minute follow-up video with this and say, this is what we learned from talking to people.
Right,
So
that sounds good.
Take your ideas, but we will not give you credit. So feel bad about that if you want. But, but most certainly we want to share the insights that we gained from you. All right. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's a wrap, Chris. Thanks.
All right. We're going to shut this rascal down. It's been really fun, and we hope to hear from you. And